summit on energy at Dar es Salaam, there has been commitments to West African cities in line with Mission 300 by 2030, with $15 billion to provide electricity. Nigeria also secured $1.1 billion to provide electricity to 5 million persons. This news is headlined by our next newspaper, The Guardian. You'd find the catchphrase beneath the masthead, Mission 300 by 2030. Optimism as West African cities get 50 billion lifeline, fresh bid for electricity. You'd find the infographics delineating the key data and matrix as it involves this conversation. On the rider, 17 contractors received 2.4 billion naira, failed to execute projects, reports reveal. FG unveils $23.2 billion energy compact targets, $15.5 billion private investments. Tax reform bills. Lamido Galadima reopen anti-North rhetorics with inheritance tax. Cardoso says Naira reverting to true value as confidence returns. Atiku faults Tinubu's harassment as Amechi warns of power clean. Appeal court affirms IPOB as prescription on ESN's 4th anniversary. Well, receive information now that our reviewers joining the conversations as we continue to expand our focus on the front pages would be joined by the publisher, Emporium Reporters Online, Lukman, Laieye, Babalola. Good morning to you, Mr. Babalola.
Good morning to you.
Nice to have you join on the program. Let's pick up from our first newspaper that captured comments of the ex-military head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, retired, where he made the statement at the book launch of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, on 100 years of political advancement with party evolutions in Nigeria, the solutions and the challenges. He says that a return to military rule is not even to be contemplated, that we can beat our chest on the gains of our democracy thus far. Do you agree with the ex-military head of state?
Yes, I do. I can say that the ex-military head of state is a Democrat, though a retired military man. But when you look at how he handed over the power to the elected civilian president, so to me, he's an hero, a nationalist. So he's an authority when it comes to a democratic system of government. So I believe he has spoken the minds of Nigerians. So we really need democracy to continue, and we don't pray for any military intervention again. And we believe he has spoken well, and is saying the minds of Nigerians.
Now, Mr. Babalola, whilst this is the mind of Nigerians, we cannot say it is entirely reflective in the sub-Saharan African region. If you would recall, the former military head of state was part of the envoys that were mandated by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the start of military coups in our neighboring West African states, the likes of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. The military junta heads refused to grant him audience whilst he visited, but they decided to grant former President Goodluck Jonathan audience. Do you think that this perception of what the military did during the military industrial complex might not be far behind in our memories now that even ECOWAS has granted the exit of the 3 Sahelian states?
To me, I believe the Niger and the rest of them that are trying to pull out of ECOWAS now, they have their reasons. I believe this has to do with the prevailing situation in their country. They believe that what the civilians that are were ruling them before the intervention of the military were not doing well, and they believe this is the right time for them to return to the military rule. And I can bet with you, they will still come back to democratic system of government.
Now, Mr. Lukman, one of the many arguments on the table is tilting towards the perception that most military regimes that occurred in the country in the past had this sense of coordination, and it appeared that people enjoyed the benefits of government as at the time than with civilian rule. I know this is not the general notion that everybody bears in mind at this point, but some people still sort of prefer military rule to civilian government. Do you think that these people might not be entirely far from perhaps the truth when they say that military rule is better than civilian rule?
I can still stand on the notion that no matter how worse the civilian rule is, it cannot be compared to military rule. Forget about what the incentive they are bringing in as military rulers. The military rulers will still behave as dictators, because there won't be any freedom for them. The decree and other things they put in place will muzzle the freedom and the respect for the human rights. So nobody should believe that military is better. Forget about the incentive. Those incentives are just to cajole people to embrace their ideology. I can still say it. They are coming back to democratic system of government. It's just a matter of time.
Now, to note that these comments were made at the Inter-Party Advisory Council's book launch, many have also called to question the conduct of our political parties in Nigeria. I don't know what you make of it, but right now, one of the foremost political parties, the People Democratic Party, even at an internal level, is facing crisis. Many talk about the credibility of the emergence of flag bearers in elections to come, and if Nigeria does need a mega party to reinstill the confidence of Nigerians in how a party ideology can bring about the great Nigeria we all hope for. Do you think that the political parties in 100 years so far have performed up to expectation?
Well, they are performing below expectation, but we'll still get there. The internal mechanism or the internal democracy of our political parties is kind of is below expectation. So they need to work harder and make sure they put things in order. The issue of imposition should be eradicated, because imposing candidates, like what happened the last general election, where the PDP, the major opposition party, feeded a northern candidate, whereas the Nigeria, based on unconstitutional arrangement, that the power should be shifted to the southern part of the country. So bringing in a northern candidate really shuts them out of the whole thing, and that made them to fail woefully during the general election. So the internal democracy should be embraced by the political parties for them to to get to where we expected.
Now, it's off the back of the comments made by the former Rivers State Governor Amechi, who blatantly told everyone watching yesterday that politicians will stop at nothing to grab power. He said power is not given, it's taken, and he was saying it from quite the negative connotation of the killing and maiming and voter intimidation that takes place during elections. Do you see reasons as to why Nigerians should be wary of such comments coming from a highly placed individual much like himself ahead of the 2027 election?
Honestly, I was disappointed with the statement made by the former governor and former minister of transport, Rotimi Amici. It shows that he has been part of manipulation in the democratic system of our dear nation. The comment made by him is unpatriotic, and is sort of a kind of the person he is, meaning that he has been part of the dirty deeds being done by the politicians. So I don't see his comments as something that want to give a kind of credibility, but rather give it Nigeria. In fact, in a sane environment, he should be arrested for all those things that he uttered out.
Well, with what we continue to see unraveling, amongst political parties in the country, especially taking, as case study, the People's Democratic Party with its countless internal crises, and also the Labour Party that has been in shambles and disarray for quite some time now, it appears that the only well-functional and organized political party in the country is the All Progressives Congress. Do you see Nigeria tilting towards just a one-party sort of political system or political space where only one political party, is in charge? Because apparently the opposition parties are gradually losing steam.
Honestly, it's unfortunate that Nigeria as a nation is going towards one political party. We need oppositions. We need opposition parties for the democracy to survive. Having one party, because now everybody now jumping to the ruling party for their personal gains. Because when you look at it, this one today will say, yes, because he lost an election. Instead of staying in his party that sponsored his candidacy, they would like to be in the middle, be at the center, so to say. They join the political party, the ruling political party. It happened not at the national level, even at the state level, even at the local government level, where when you lost an election, the next thing is to decamp or to defect to the ruling party. This is not okay for democracy. So we should not encourage such. We need more political parties for us as a nation, so that our democracy will thrive.
Now, talking about our thriving democracy ahead of 2027, again, the question is on INEC and the need for electoral reforms across the country. Once this conversation come up, you'd find Nigerians referring to how we need a new constitution and the electoral reforms that need to be done. But even with the powers that be as it concerns what the current electoral act says, there have been very little prosecutions as against those who intimidate voters despite evidence online. People continue to make bigotry comments, threaten voters in certain parts of the country, but the law enforcement hasn't really cracked down on them. Now the EFCC has also joined in election monitoring, saying that they are curbing vote buying. But Edo State now is also in the election petition tribunal stage with some comments in regards to the issues I just mentioned, but we continue to see faceless persons accused of these crimes. What are your hopes in regards of 2027? Do you prescribe to an amendment of our Electoral Act? What do we need to do to strengthen INEC as an institution?
Well, our electoral empire, that's INEC, should be totally independent. When you look at the appointment of the chairman and the bodies that are made up of the INEC, that is INEC commissioners and the rest, they are being appointed by the, so to say, the ruling party. Do you expect them to do contrary to the ruling party's bidding? No. So definitely they will support the ruling parties, both at the state level and at the national level. So to me, the INEC should be totally independent. I think the benchers, that is NBA and the rest of them, at the judiciary level of system of government should come in and make sure that they are the one appointing INEC chairman and the rest, so that INEC will be totally free from the grip of the ruling parties.
Well, does INEC really want to be free from the grip of the ruling parties, considering how allegedly they continue to enjoy many incentives due to the fact that the organization or the agency is structured in the way that it is? We have seen in several, elections, general elections, where external or international election observers come in and, the reports they give about INEC isn't all that rosy, and it's nothing to write home about. So is this issue stemming from the ruling party, or are we looking at a systemic corruption that is inherent in INEC?
Yes, it's not about the INEC here. We Nigerians, the electorate, we are part of this corruption going on in the electoral system of our nation. Vote buying, not only INEC will never involve in vote buying, though they permit it, in the sense that when someone is being caught, nobody can prosecute the person, and we all look away as if nothing happened. So, to me, the electorate should be informed that when you collect or received money from the politician, you've sold your rights, and you may not have a say, because somebody that spent billions of naira in the name of protesting for governorship or presidential election, and you expect the person not to recoup his money when if related. So, and such person will not do anything rather than looking for possibility of getting his money back. So we electorates should learn that vote buying or anything that has to do with manipulation should not be condoned. We should ensure that we participate in the election with our minds free from corruption, so that we can elect the right person to the positions.
Now, in keeping with more issues in the news this morning, let's also look at it from a trade of words between the presidency and former Kaduna State Governor El-Rufai over the policies and its effects on Nigerians. Now, a lot of persons have asked for patience in keeping with the Renewed Hope mandate, but some policy decisions, removal of fuel subsidy, the exchange rate hike, has also further impoverished Nigerians. Now, there are projections that 13 million more Nigerians will join the 133 million beneath the poverty line. I don't know if you would take sides with either El-Rufai or the current administration in where the future of Nigerians lies in line with our current economic realities.
It's so amused that El-Rufai is condemning this government now. He was part of it from the beginning. He sold the idea to Nigerians. So why telling them Nigerians that they should be, to me, it should, with due respect, it should keep quiet and allow us to enjoy whatever this government is bringing to us.
Do you think it's because the National Assembly stood down his nomination to be a minister? Maybe. Yes,
that was part of it. To be honest with you, he's not really he has been shut out of the whole arrangement.
So you feel his concerns now are coming from more of a malicious place other than best intentions for the country?
Yes, I cannot describe him as a statesman. He has never been truthful to Nigerians. He always talk about what will benefit him and his cronies. So he's talking from the aspect of, yes, I've been sought out, so let me scatter the whole thing. So in the local palace. So he's not talking for Nigerians. He's talking for himself. Himself. So look at what happened between him and his godson in Kaduna State. So you can deduce from that El-Rufai has been shot out of APC. So that is why he's saying all these things.
Mr. Lukman, you cited that El-Rufai is one of the persons, or is allegedly amongst the people that brought the government of the day into power.
Yes.
And recently he was captured saying that the reason why we have poor leadership in the country is because the nation is being ruled by cunning and illiterate people. Is it safe to say that El-Rufai, perhaps even though not directly at the corridors of power, is invariably amongst those cunning and illiterate people that he cited?
So that was why I said that it's a kind of surprising statement coming from him, because he sold the idea of Tinubu candidacy to Nigerians, to the APC. He was at the forefront telling Nigerians that yes, Tinubu will remain the best candidate. So why now? Why is condemning? Why now telling Nigerians that Tinubu is no longer the best for Nigerians. So Nigerians need to ask him what went wrong.
That's a very big question right there. What went wrong with, in terms of asking Malam Nasir El-Rufai? It's much like Vito has pointed out. It's perhaps due to, his kick out during the ministerial nomination and screening that took place at the National Assembly. But let's also visit Adamawa State with one of the most outstanding and best performing governors in the country. Talking about Amadou Umaru Fintiri, who has led quite a huge infrastructural transformation in his state. Now he has come out to also, join voices with Malam Nasir El-Rufai, even though not directly, but also citing that the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is an anti-people policy and is causing the unending hardship that Nigerians continue to face in the country. Should we believe these words coming from the Adamawa State Governor?
Yes, His Excellency Ahmed Fintiri has spoken well. He has really talked what is happening in the country. The current situation is bad if we want to be fair to ourselves. So definitely what he is saying is right. And I don't want to believe that he's joining El-Rufai, because El-Rufai was part of people that brought us to this. So, but I commend him for speaking out. Though people might see it as we're talking from the opposition side of politics, but he's saying the right thing, and he's saying he has spoken the minds of Nigerians. Do you people be vulnerable? Because let me not say all Nigerians, but those who are enjoying the free whatever the crumbles they are getting from the government will never say something like this. They will say yes, the government is performing. But those affected will definitely talk, and he has spoken on behalf of those who are not part of the so-called cronies of the ruling parties.
Now let's talk about what will better the lots of Nigerians. Whilst a lot of persons draw conclusions as to where the loyalty lies when you find political bigwigs making statements on how affected the people are by the current administration's policies direction. Now, and very recently, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania alongside other heads of states for an energy summit. Now, in commitments to Mission 300 by 2030, the AfDB has also released funds for the electrification of West African cities. $50 billion was released, from which Nigeria is supposed to get $1.1 billion. Now, whilst it's supposed to cover for 5 million people, a lot of people are not too optimistic because of the recent issues with our power grid and a hike for electricity consumers, with the Band A characterization being called unfair. What do you make of this Mission 300 by 2030 statements and the monies the AfDB has pledged towards electrifying West African cities?
Well, I believe the summits, the commitments to bring positive results, because like for Nigeria, billions of naira has been invested in power sector, but what is the result? Nothing. So I believe with this summit, just concluded summit and intervention of the AfDB, so there will be an improvement, not to Nigeria as a country, but to the West Africa.
Now you've alluded to the fact that monies have been spent recently. Just last week, we're discussing in the studios the Mambila Power Project and how much of, I don't want to use the word scam, or how much of a deception it has been so far in terms of the deliverables not being delivered to Nigerians, and with the arbitrations in Paris and former leaders being summoned. What's to say that this $1.1 billion being disbursed for electrification now might not go down the same line?
That is what I cannot say for now. Look at the current, the immediate past Minister of Power that is under prosecution now. So You can never tell. Those who will still, take away the money, they are still, ready, I'm planning how to siphon the money. So I believe if the government can put in place and the partners can put in place proper monitoring, it may not go the same way, but if not, it will go the same way and become a thing of investigation.
Mr. Lukman, when you say the partners putting in proper monitoring, in what aspect exactly are you referring to? Because it appears that the Minister of Power, Chief Adelabu, has in the last couple of months decried the massive and vandalization of our power plants across the country, especially the power grid, which has consistently hampered the growth of the power sector in the nation. So what exactly should these partners do in ensuring that we don't see a repetition of all of these vices?
When you are investing in a business, you should know that people, those who are you are giving your money, you should know how. You should ensure that they put the money in the proper use and make sure the money or your investment is yielding the results, the desired results. So AfDB and other address, I believe they should have a mechanism to monitor the investment so that it should not go in a Nigeria way, because Nigeria, even the minister that is speaking regarding to the vandalization and others, he has been part of the government. He left the government and contest and later come back to the government again. So I don't think he can even offer anything different.
Now, in keeping with the rural electrification, which is part of the highlights and intended target of the 5 million Nigerians to benefit, the challenges with securing these power installations. Because if we have outfits like the NSCDC, whose primary function is the protection of government property, but yet somehow these vandals continue to thrive, what are some of the fail switch systems that the government needs to put in place to forestall a vandalization of whatever investments this $1.1 billion will be used for?
The best bet is community policing, because and government need to fight what I can describe as a saboteur within the so-called security agencies, because at times all these things doesn't happen just like that without input of the security agency, because they know them and most of the time they collide with them for their own personal gain. So community policing, in the sense that the people in the community, the host communities should be involved in the whole thing, so that they can be able to monitor and identify those who are trying to sabotage the effort of the government.
Well, in looking for alternative means of energy generation, Mr. Lukman, there is a stat here that says that Africa holds 60% of the world's most attractive solar resources. 60% is quite a very huge figure when we're looking at the entire 100% across the world. Do you think that maybe in ensuring that electrification gets across to the billions of people across Africa, and of course with this project 300 by 2050, do you think that exploring the solar energy sector will be a viable solution to this challenging debacle that we are facing?
Yes, I agree with you that solar should be the best for us as an alternative energy, because the normal the usual sources are not really giving us the results. So we should look for other alternatives, not only solar. Wind and other source of energy should be explored, so that we can have a stable energy supply. for our industry and domestic use.
Now, there's also conversations tilting towards non-fossil fuel in our energy conversations around the world. Much like solar, this conversation on leaning towards clean energy is being had. But right now, a huge amount of the electricity generated in Nigeria is fueled by gas. Challenge is that we also need to tap into the cubic feet of gas that are untapped in the country. In analyzing this, would you say that Nigeria's commitment is somewhat behind, or are we involving in our commitments towards the transition to clean energy while also looking to tap the untapped gas resources?
Yes, we need to do more. Nigeria need to do more because we have this gas in abundance, and though I think what we need to do is to just do is to get involved in exploration and make sure that we get it right, because we have it in abundance. So the untapped should be tapped and used properly. We have resources to generate energy in Nigeria aside other sources that we are currently using. So we should exploit it and make sure that it gets energy gets better.
Now, in keeping with more news stories and issues in the news, earlier we looked at the Punch newspaper, and headlined on it was the PDP stakeholders looking to make peace amongst its party bigwigs. The FCT minister and the Bauchi State Governor had exchanged words quite openly all through the start of the year, and it got heated up even last week. But following a breakdown in the Board of Trustees meeting, it's now beyond even the position of the party scribe. There are conversations that, as the PDP governors look to meet today, one of the leading agendas on the table would be to make peace between the Bauchi State Governor and the FCT minister. What does this do for the PDP at this time?
I think PDP need to put their house in order, allow internet democracy to reign, because being the major opposition party, they need to work harder and make sure that they put the ruling party on a check, because what is happening in PDP now is amazing. That for them, instead of them to come together, and make sure that things get right, because Nigerians are now looking at them now. Okay, if APC fail, then let's try PDP again. What is happening in PDP means that they are not ready to take the power. So if they cannot sort out what is happening, the internal arrangement, and now a sieging blow in the name, or in the due to the fact that two people are claiming right to the position of national secretary. So it's unfortunate. So they need to put their house in order and stand as a major political party.
Well, putting their house in order appears to be a far-fetched dream, because all the bigwigs within the party are at loggerheads. If we take a look at it, x-raying it from the Wike Fubara situation, Wike Bala Mohammed situation, or the Damagum situation, where Damagum is being backed by the FCT minister, and then the governor of Rivers State, Sasiminalai Fubara, wants him out? Or is it the Okoye Anyanwu situation of who becomes national secretary? It appears that the problems of the PDP is just too humongous to be resolved within a very short while. 2027 is just around the corner. And yet again, the PDP is faced with a very huge task of either fixing or putting its house in order and contesting for the elections, or being further relegated to the background as an ineffective opposition party. Do you think that perhaps the glory days of the People's Democratic Party are over, and maybe it is high time to wrap up the party itself?
APC has successfully infiltrated the major party, the major opposition party, that is PDP. Look at Wike, who happened to be one of the major financier of PDP. It's now between APC and it's more of APC than PDP. And who again? Or is it the former vice president that after the election he will go back to his base, when the election is approaching he will come to Nigeria? So PDP need to work harder and recruit not the old men, the younger ones that can take over the party and make it more vibrant. So they should forget about these old politicians who are PDP in the morning but in the night yeah, APC. So they have nothing to offer. So they need to rebrand the party and inject young ones that can take over the party and make it more vibrant.
Now, you cited the former Vice President Laieye Abubakar always running back to his base when elections are over, and coming down to the country to contest for presidency, over and over again. Now, one of the major concerns of most political analysts is the fact that perhaps the overambitiousness of Vice President Atiku Abubakar towards becoming the president is what is stampeding the growth of the People's Democratic Party. And remember, on the sideline, he recently came out to boldly state that the All Progressives Congress under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is giving out 50 million naira each to opposition party members to ensure that they distance the People's Democratic Party. How much of a statement of fact or truth is this?
Well, I can't disagree with him. He has been in the system. He has been part of corruption going on in the system, since the inception of democracy. So I can't doubt him. Well, that is not, if it happens, that is not the best for our democracy.
Well, we must thank you, Mr. Babalola, for taking our time to share your thoughts on the program this morning. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me.